asking? Just like that. Sounds good. I really like the
really perfect for us. Well, I don't want to go that high. I do too, but I don't want to go that high.
You bring the house?
Am I sitting by you again?
You get sit. I get to sit by you.
Well, Sierra. You guys sit over there. I'm going to sit next to Sierra.
I was thinking about far right, right? I was telling that.
Can you stand up real quick? I'm going to trade you out.
I left it up here.
That didn't happen, brother. That didn't happen.
How you doing, Mr. Sawyer?
Pretty well. Whoa! That is nice. Yeah. You like that?
Do you have it on thing right or anything?
Shared it with me, so I don't know. That's my best bet.
I have no idea how to
Download it.
Well, we can try to connect it to this.
HDMI or the other one?
This USB. Then you're going to be out of luck here.
It's not on your computer? I mean, you don't have a USB on your computer?
The USB will show up on the screen?
Sure.
It's, well, that's how it is.
Learn something new every day.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everything was disconnected, so with everything not sure it's to the screen. Is that USB? Yeah, because what we've done is we have HDMI connected to the projector, but we have a box inside connected through a USB cable.
We good? I hope so.
Yep.
Do you need anything from me?
You asking me?
No, not you. You don't put me to work. I can't babysit.
What time are you guys on the agenda?
After you said quick. Scott? Oh, soon. You turned on yet?
How many items are they down? No, which number are
Oh, it's Wisconsin. So we're trying. I don't see
Okay, we'll just do it. All right. Call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the regularly scheduled board meeting. First of all, as my prerogative as board chair, I would like to let you all know that I understand that it is the National College Basketball Championships tonight.
7 o'clock, 1 million.
And so I am well aware. So as we do have a very full agenda tonight, so as long as everyone behaves and is on point, I will do my level best to get us through this agenda, meet all our legal requirements, and get you home in time for tip-off. My best. I will not promise, but I will do my best. Okay, having said that, is anyone here to make public comment on a non-agenda item? May I see your hands, please? Seeing none, we will move forward and not go into the instructions for public participation. Okay. Do we have any board comments or observations other than go Zags? Cheers. Okay. Seeing none, let's go ahead and make this official and all rise with the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Crosby, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, everybody, let's settle down and dive right in. Let's begin with agenda item number 1, which is the approval of the March 6th regular board meeting minutes. Assuming you have all reviewed the meeting minutes in the board packet, do we have any additions or corrections?
Yes.
Trustee Lake.
So, on item number 5, Business Scholarship and Education Foundation, Judy Woodhouse was not here, it was Becky DeWeese. I don't know if that matters to you, but
It's a correction that needs to be made to the record, yes. Are there any other corrections or additions? Seeing none at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Second. We have a motion and a second. Do you have any further comments or suggestions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes are approved. Okay. And hang on just a second, I am missing my hard copy agenda. Can someone pass me? Oh, I got it. Hang on. Nope, that is it. Somebody pass me the hard copy agenda. Thank you. Okay. I need to have several screens going at once. I appreciate on to number 2, update from the high school representative. And we have someone new in the chair. Would you please introduce yourself to the group?
Yes, my name is Sierra Garcia. I'm the student body vice president, and I'm filling in for Sophia Sisler today because she's being a page for the governor.
Thank you, Sierra. What do you have for us this evening?
So we recently had prom on the 18th of March, and it was Hollywood themed, and it went without incident. Spring sports all started up and are competing as of last week. Today, the high school counselors have started registering students for schedules next year and the upcoming freshmen. All of the juniors are going to be taking the ACT on April 19th. For music, District Music Festival will be coming up here in April, the 21st through 22nd?
20th through the 22nd.
Okay, 20th through 22nd. There are about 50 to 60 students that are going to be performing in groups, well, not students, but performances for choir, and somewhere close to 30 per band, so quite a few. The yearbook orders were sent out this last weekend. We're starting a new quarter, so hopefully, everything will be going well. Students will start up really well. And we just got back from the choir and band trip in Spokane, and we have some students here to talk about their experience and a slideshow video to show to the board.
Fantastic.
So.
Oh, okay. That we will delay that to some later agenda item. Do you have anything else for us here?
Not right now.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for Sierra?
Speaker cord,
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in and filling in for Sophia. We are always happy to see you.
That was decent. All right.
Okay, moving right along, we have the superintendent's report from the superintendent.
All right. We another busy month in store and behind you. First of all, the recognition for our boys basketball coach, Mr. Kelly, was an honoree of the Northwest Coach of the Year, voted by his peers this last month. So recognition to him and his team for what they accomplished this year. The attendance, as we alluded to earlier, that myself plus 3 trustees were in Denver for the National School Boards Association. I think that there's an agenda item that will speak briefly about the experience and what we brought back from that. Very, very good trip. I also had the opportunity to participate in the advocacy on the Hill in Helena last month, and good connections there. A lot going on, and it was kind of slow up till about 2 weeks ago, and now there's a race to the finish, and so bills are quickly piling up, as many of you know. I was able to meet with the mayor in town. We had talked about just, interesting enough, what we learned in Denver in that community connection. I was already meeting with Ms. Knudsen and building those connections already, so good best practices taking place, good meeting with her. And then we had about 20 to 25, maybe 30 individuals for the screen of Paper Tigers, and that's the trauma-affected students. And that was invite from across the reservation. So we have people from St. Ignatius to Hot Springs that attended. This next bullet down, I attended an Edmonton today and tomorrow. I'm on a site review committee for accreditation. I am at Two Eagle River School, and I'll be with them today and tomorrow, looking at their best practices, what's going well, and what's some growth areas. And interesting enough, they're doing some things that I feel like every time I go to a review, that schools are doing things that we can bring back, and so it's been a good professional development for me as well to go down and be with them. We have worked in facilities and transportation. I have Dan here that can speak on this, and Alan as well. We did have Amerisco walk through Cherry Valley to give us a second opinion on replacing that boiler. And we've always pushed with the Quality Schools grant that we're going to change out an apple for an apple, but maybe that boiler can have another option. Maybe that's an electric source potentially. We really haven't explored different options. And so I asked them to come in free of charge. They're just going to give us a second opinion about what else could be there if we do get Quality Schools grant. We've been working diligently with our architect Paradigm over the last month, pretty aggressively, for the Polson Middle School roof. We have got numbers back. We talked about that in the work session this afternoon. We thought it would be 800 1.2 million, and those numbers now look softly $650,000, so less than what we expected. Good news, I guess. It's still a lot of money, but needed. The community outreach part was every building in our district, every school in our district will reach out to our parent group, and we're having a parent survey. So that's that piece that we heard in Denver. We already started it before we left, but we know that's a good outreach that we want to get some stakeholders in our community to tell us what is going well and what our growth areas might be for each building. And so that's going to go out, start spring break, and ends on the 24th. And so you will see that through email, through robocalls, letters home, how to take that survey. And a couple of reminders: board meetings May 8th, and spring break starts on the 10th. That's all I have, Trustee.
Trustees, any questions for Mr. Wells? I'm going to piggyback on your announcements because I forgot to do so earlier. This is a district-wide reminder. It will be the first time in a long time that we are having a school board election. It's going to be a mail-in election. We have 2 open seats. We have 3 people vying for those seats. Again, it'll be a mail-in ballot, so everyone in this district is going to be receiving those. Those will be due on May 2nd. So this is going to be the first time that you get to actually participate in a vote and have an opportunity to elect the folks that are sitting up here. So this is an important one. Make sure you participate. So there you go. Just wanted to make sure that it didn't get in file 13 or whatever they say about those things. So anyway, moving right along. Number 4 is the Polson Scholarship and Education Foundation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ryan Gage is not here, nor is a representative from that organization. Okay, as long as no board members disagree, we are going to move that to the bottom of the communication items below number 10. Is everyone okay with that? All right. So let's skip ahead to number 5, which is the Polson High School band and choir presentation. Mr. Wilson, are you ready?
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's behind the scenes stuff going on.
That's
Okay,
right.
Rob on.
So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Rich Sawyer, who is our band director at the high school, and Kaylee Schubert, who is our choir director, and they are going to talk to you about the tour they just went on, along with some students.
All right, we'll start with Sophie Sisler prepared this for us in her absence, so it's kind of fun. Spokane was great. Some of the stuff we made it a fun-filled trip, an educational trip for all of them. Went to an indoor stadium football game. Went to Mamma Mia, which is great, at the Spokane Opera House, and its last showing in America. That was kind of exciting for the students to enjoy. And then what else? We on the band side, it was a little tough because Eastern Washington was on their finals week, and Gonzaga, I guess they have a basketball team there. Their team, their pep band, and all the band kids were in San Jose, so it made it a little difficult. But we did get to speak with some of the music professors there, so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, they did mention. I counted on the tour at Gonzaga. They mentioned basketball 26 times. So it's a beautiful campus too. So.
Yes, and then on the choir side, we did work with some undergrads. We had the sopranos and altos go with a soprano undergrad who was in one of the top choirs there and work with them for an hour, and with our tenors and basses for concert choir and connection. They also worked with a baritone who's a composition major senior at Gonzaga, and the kids seemed to really enjoy that. I think they got a lot out of it. But let's go ahead and
So this is what
slideshow.
Sophie has prepared for you. So hope the sound's not going to be perfect. Oh baby.
Oh.
We'll try that again. It's gonna work, promise. PPS? So we had talked about having the students here name something that they learned and something that they also had fun with. Oh, is there more than two?
Sierra over here.
Sierra, should we go?
Oh, that's nice.
What do you learn?
I learned a lot about keeping up with music after high school, because I thought you would have to have a career in music, but you don't. You can stay in music and be an engineer or a teacher.
Fun part?
I really liked Mamma Mia.
I enjoyed, we sat in on the rehearsal for Dr. Tim at Gonzaga, and I really enjoyed listening to his choir. It was one of his top choirs, and they were singing the Verdi piece, and I really enjoyed it. And just like the strictness of his rehearsal, it was impressive how they were disciplined. It was really good. And a fun part, I enjoyed laser tag, which there weren't pictures of, but we did do laser tag, which is really fun.
But thank you for letting us have the opportunity to go. It was awesome, and kids learned a lot, and college bound for sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see Becky Dupuy is here, so I'm going to ask Becky Dupuy, representing the Polson Scholarship and Education Foundation, to address the board. What do you have for us this month, Becky?
You know, it just doesn't seem like it should be this hard to give away money.
Yes.
We have 4 great recipients this month for our teachers, and I don't even know if this really has a name, but just our grant money that's trying to help teachers do some different things and some special things. So I have 4 of them, and they're all very different. I would like to, is everybody here? Carrie, Leslie Dalby, because I don't know, and let's see, Stephanie St. Clair?
Not here.
Okay, so I'll tell you about Stephanie's, but, so if you guys don't mind, if you could just tell, I'll give a general introduction, but if you could maybe give us an example, because they're very interesting. There's some very interesting uses. So Carrie LaPierre, hers is entitled 6th Grade Experimental Math, Think Fun with Math. And so she's going to receive $701.60 for equipment, games, different things that kids can learn about math in a fun way. So can you add anything to that, Carrie?
Some of it is for getting more differentiation in the classroom too. So some of it is for they're really good thinking games, and so a kid that's finished or done a little early can go over and get one of the games and extend their own learning in that. Or right now I do have an exploratory class that's having fun with math, and so we've had cribbage tournaments, and we built GeoCities, and we made invention projects, and so this is really to help supplement some of those things I was running out and getting all the time. So, like cribbage boards.
Which are not easy to find, by the way.
No, and they sell out at Walmart all the time.
You can get them for $80, fancy ones. Yeah. Great, okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carrie. The second one is Leslie Dalby, 7th grade life science. And hers is titled Movement and Learning, and her budget is $485. And this is, well, 7th grade for middle school students. I thought this was very interesting because she's talking about trying to help kids that, all 7th grade kids have a hard time sitting still, I'm guessing, but to give them some things to help them learning if they can't sit still.
So it all kind of started out of something I just tried. I brought in some TheraBands from home and tied them around desks because I had a few kids that just had a hard time sitting still and staying on task. And the kids loved them so much. They were afraid that they would be the first one in class to trade desks to get the TheraBand desk. And so I thought, this is ridiculous. I didn't think it was available for everybody. So I started with approaching the bicycle hanger, and they donated used bicycle inner tubes that I now have on all the desks, so that was something that didn't have to come out of the grant money. And then with the grant money, purchased a standing desk, which I just got assembled today after school, a Corey wobble stool, which allows some movement for a kid. I couldn't do the bouncy balls. I'm too visual, and kids doing this would not work for my learning styles. And then I also got 6 lap desks that kids could sit on the floor in different places and work during individual time and still have a surface to work with that was more usable than a clipboard. So thank you for making those resources available. My kids are going to get to see it all on Wednesday, getting the testing done before I introduce something really new to the environment. So I appreciate the opportunity to get those things for my kids. So thank you.
Great, thank you for applying. And Stephanie St. Clair, she's not here, right? Okay. So I understand that she's a new teacher. She teaches 3rd grade. And so what her grant is for is, she calls it 3rd grade manipulatives. So they're everything from rulers to compasses to counting sticks to, what else does she say in here? Fraction bars, things to help kids visually and tactilely, I guess, learn about what it is that 3rd graders need to know. So, and then the last one is Jennifer Seifert, art integration. Well, of course, we like all of them, but I like this one too. Trying to put art and any other kind of learning together just to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, sure. I received an art grant several years ago, and I've had teachers come and borrow different art supplies, and pretty soon the art supplies are gone. And so last year I started putting together baskets and raffling them off. We did it when we had our spring art showcase and raised about $500 through that. And I had teachers fill out a kind of a wish list of art supplies that they wanted and just started ordering art supplies for them. And then this grant became available, so I thought it would be another way to get them art supplies they would need in their classroom to do art projects. So that's what I'm using it for.
So thank you to everybody.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Apply and keep up the creative work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank the foundation for their continued support of our teachers, and we'd like to thank our teachers because we know that, yes, the money is awfully nice, but it takes your innovation and your thought and your dedication putting together these ideas and the implementation to make it really work. So I think everybody deserves a great round.
Thank you. And thank you for waiting for me.
You're very welcome. It was important, but we'll make that happen.
The recipients were relieved.
Yes.
We're out of here.
Thanks. Okay, number 6, facilities update. Superintendent Wallenbach.
As mentioned in the superintendent's report, I'll go into one particular with a little bit more interest. I do have Dan Giles here that's been integral in part of the process, in all of the process. Particular the middle school roof. I mentioned that anticipated, $1 million. It looks like it's in the 600,000. Dan, I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but with that 640, maybe we can talk a little bit about what that project's going to look like. Extra cricketing, extra insulation, and white insulation, and then what kind of membrane, what we're looking at. I'm going to put you on the spot there.
Sure. Well, what we found out when we did the preliminary report up there is only 3 inches of insulation on that whole roof. 3 inches. Okay, that's like an R14 is what we figured. Imagine your house with R14 in it.
Did no one tell them this is Montana?
25 years ago, they probably didn't care. So we want to add another 3 inches to that. That'll bring us up to R38, and recommended is R42, but that's as close as we're going to get on our roof without another $1 million to remove some equipment, and that's just not going to happen. The membrane we originally went with that I got from Dan Kenyon was what's on the high school, and it's Sarnafil, and it's about the most expensive roofing there is out there. It's good, but there's a lot of replacements that we can use instead and save a lot of money. and have the same kind of warranties, 20 to 25 years. That's what Sarnafil was too. And we'll save what we figure $10 per square foot on this type of material. And I have it right here. It's a fleece back, and what it is has a reinforcement underneath the membrane, so we gain a huge amount of thickness on our roof, which in turn will obviously last a lot longer. Cricketing, there's no cricketing on our roof. What cricketing does, it starts from the center and brings all the water down so it can get off the building. Well, we have 4, 5, 6 inches over here, 4 more inches over there. And the architect, Paul Bishop, did a study to find out how much load each downspout where the water comes out really had on it. And there's one downspout on the back of our building that takes 90% of the flow of water coming out of it. So that's why we have brick coming off, freezing in our pipes and our downspouts, on our sidewalks. So it's going to be a process to bring that back up. But we saved a huge amount of money from the Sarnafil that we originally thought it was going to be. So
we'll be able to redesign a little bit and make some fixes in this re-engineering
we will
process.
be able to have the roof function properly as a roof. It will drain properly. It will unthaw properly. We're going to change the downspouts. They're closed now where the water comes down, so it freezes, then they blow up. So now all the water leaks behind them and around them, and I'm going to go with an open downspout. So one face will be open, so we won't have that freezing problem anymore. Save electricity, get rid of all the conduit with the heat tape up there. So.
Trustees, any follow-up questions? Sounds good.
One thing we might add, he mentioned there's one layer of insulation, so you can see every joint where they laid the foam board down, and that's where all the heat's coming up. And so the second layer of insulation will offset every joint, so you won't have direct seams coming through the roof. Our energy bill, in theory, should be down.
Awesome.
Yeah, just capping it.
Question?
And you have recognized no other damage yet to the rest of the roof prior to this?
We foresee there being a little damage over the library, which has no insulation. The insulation's underneath. So it's like a typical house. It just has plywood, then you put your fabric on, which it has 2 layers of fabric because one failed. We foresee a little bit of damage underneath there with some of the plywood and stuff like that, but nothing substantial.
Yeah. Predominantly, that whole roof deck is metal, other than the library. So they went in and did core samples. They dug in and found out what was going on. And that was my question. If we're going to have to replace a bunch of that insulation, but it seems to be very well intact. And if any water did get through the insulation, it was just going to sit on the metal deck. And so it wasn't going to rot that plywood out. And so, pretty fortunate right now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Alan, do you have any other questions? Okay, great.
Dan covered it pretty well.
Fantastic, thank you, Dan. Number 7, the review of coach hire, rehire, and evaluation process. Before I turn this over to Superintendent Waltz, I'd like to let everybody know, this is something that was requested that be put on the agenda by Trustee Dupuy. I want to thank him for that. This is something that comes up from the public quite often, and so we had a quick back and forth conversation. We just thought it would be a good idea to kind of reacquaint everybody with this process, just to make sure everybody's well aware. Unfortunately, people don't usually pay attention until they have a personal issue with it, so we figured just maybe once a year we'll just go over it just to make sure everybody's aware. So want to let you know that that's why this is on the agenda today. So with that, Superintendent Waltz.
I agree. I think this is the time of year that that question gets asked often. And for communication device, you're able to answer those questions in the grocery store or where it might be. I was asked to provide a real quick synopsis of what that looks like. Hiring process for coaches, traditionally in any building, in any state, in any high school I've ever been in, you want your coaches, at least your head coach to be within the building just to build those relationships, check on kids, and that makes the most sense. So there's always been a philosophy of trying to get your head coach within your building. It doesn't always work, but that's, and there's been good coaches that haven't been inside the building, but for the most part, that's the interest is to try to keep them inside, keep him or her inside the building. Just like any other hiring process, there's a committee composed of usually the principal, the athletic director, and some teacher that would be in that interview. I think the biggest one that I hear is, are they being evaluated or how they get evaluated? And so I included in your green packets, there's 2 instruments that's used for the evaluation by the end of the year. Every head coach will be evaluated, and it's their responsibility as the head coach. He or her will then evaluate their assistants. All right, so that's on a yearly basis. You'll note that coaches are always up on this every year for rehire. Coaching contracts are a 1-year only contract, and so that's why you always see them come through within their respective seasons. Okay. So that's really what it looks like. There are processes in place. I think that there's always ways to strengthen those, but I know that this is the process that the high school has used in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And probably more so. Scott's been there much longer than I have.
Any questions from the trustees? Just a quick reminder, if an individual parent has a question or concern about a coach's behavior or something, what's the proper chain of command to go through?
Assistant coach or head coach? I think you try to start the lowest common denominator, so if it's an assistant coach, I would certainly want to talk to the head coach. If it's a head coach, I would like them to go see the athletic director. If it's the athletic director, go see the principal at that point. And ultimately, I am responsible for it all. But what I think is most important is that I'm not the first line, is that if there's an issue, start with the ground level. It's like me being a high school principal and parents have a problem with the teacher. I always send them to go see the teacher, go start that communication, start that relationship, and see how that works for you.
I appreciate that. That's a good reminder for us. We get, I know you guys hear that from us, but a lot of times we get that not expecting it. We're in the frozen food aisle and somebody just pins us and we've got kids around us and there's, yeah, you heard and this happened, and it's just a reminder. This is what we need to tell them to be consistent so that everybody gets treated fairly, both the staff member as well as the parent. So
I will always hear it. I mean, I will.
Of course, but it's a good reminder to all of us. Any final questions or comments? Thanks, Steve, for putting that on the agenda. That was good. Okay. Number 8, board training update. Just really quick, you'll be hearing different things from all of us over the next several months, I'm sure. Rex, Chanel Lake, and Shannon Bajorquez and I all had the opportunity to attend the National School Board Convention. This is the second time I've done it in my 4 years on the board. It was an incredible training opportunity. I think I've sent most of you a quick summary of some of the sessions that I attended. You can times that by 4 because we almost all attended different ones. I can't tell you how much and different kinds of information that were available, as well as the depth of knowledge that was kind of all concentrated there. When I sent that email out to the administration, I really meant that. This is kind of a, hey, if anybody is interested in this stuff, I've got more information and anybody wants to run with this, I'd love to share some of this information with you. There was so much, and just kind of some general takeaways for successful communities that are all trying to do more with less, which is that infuriating thing we're all hearing. It's all about reaching out outside our little fiefdoms and recognizing that we can only do it by making those connections with other community organizations, and whether that means more partnerships like the one we have with St. Joe Hospital, or maybe innovative partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce and their members, and how do we, leverage that for our seniors, or, other things we haven't even thought of. But it's all about reaching out to the community and talking more about just our kids and where they are now, because they're going to be the future community members, whether they be voters or workers, and how can we make them better prepared, etc. So we should be having more conversations with those other folks and not just going, okay, at 18, we're kicking them out the door and now they're yours. So all kinds of ways to make those community connections. And then I know you guys hear it all the time, a lot of you use it all the time, but there was this fascinating fascinating conversation about technology, how we take away their smartphones, and yet we have odd conversations about how can we get one-to-one computers in everybody's hand. Well, most of the kids already have one. So how do we leverage that technology instead of ignoring it? How do we use it in ways that's not just pretending it's a electronic encyclopedia? What are kids going to be asked to do once they enter the workplace that's more than just routine kinds of things, because that's where the jobs are going to be that are really going to pay and be sustainable. So anyway, there's lots and lots of stuff. It was really very exciting. I'm hoping in the future there'll be opportunity for some staff to actually go to some of these, because there were sessions that were really in the weeds that would be really exciting for teachers and administration as well. So I want to look at those possibilities for the future as well. Again, there will be probably lots of conversations that happen individually with some of the other people that attended. Would you guys like to make any comments at this point?
It was very well, very well. And I guess there were several things, but one of the positives is it was nice to know that at this district, the things that we were doing very well, that the PLCs was just some districts are just getting into that. So it's very nice to know that we had a lot of positive things going. I think sometimes we get stuck on the negative, and when you're at the grocery store, when you're at a basketball game, or if you're out for a walk or whatever like that, and you get pinned, you hear all the negative. And I think that for any of us, it's nice to know that there is positive out there and to get it out to the community, because the negative can always take over. So, I mean, there was lots of things, but that's the number one thing that comes to my mind. So.
That's a real good point.
Anyway, Shannon?
Yeah, along those lines, it was very big with community outreach and involving all of the people that make up the community that are the parents to the kids who we are all involved with. And finding ways to campaign within our county, our own town, our state, all the way up to legislation, and building like some kind of a campaign that is outreaching and how we want to touch all the children and how we want to kind of pull together some funds that we can do statewide where we can help fund all of our schools, because budget is something that seriously is affecting all of us. And one of the things that I did attend was a bus transportation, kind of have safety on our buses.
And you came out on fire after that session.
And it was a very informing class with some ideas to help not only, working with our administrators at maybe like Cherry Valley, Linderman, working with you guys with bus transportation, and how to actually promote positive behavior and not all the negative that we know that they do and have on the bus, but finding ways to reverse it. So these kids are kind of in shock that we're not on them all the time, but trying to point out some positive things that might help them to deter from being the students that we have the issues with on the bus. So if anybody would like to have any more information, you can get in contact with me, because I have a little list of things that were really interesting that maybe we could use.
It won't bother us to call us or email us about these things. We're kind of hoping you will, because we kind of feel like you're really busy, so we don't want to bother you too much. So we're like, if you're interested, call us. Any other comments or questions? I know Brex is going to talk to Ollie all about all the things that he did, so.
I will.
Okay. Well, go thanks. Okay, move on. All right. Board committee updates. Allen Facilities, anything that we've not talked about?
Really, we didn't have anything really new to add to the list, other than we did have a couple extensive conversations about the parking lot over here at the gym is getting really bad, sinkholes. They did a bad job of filling that in.
And then the sidewalk on that one.
Yeah. So we got some problems going on there, as well as we're still limping the boiler at Cherry Valley, but when I hear our maintenance staff using rags to wrap around the pipes, we got an issue. Yeah, so.
We're so close.
Yeah, so that's something that we really need to address, probably this summer. We cannot.
Well, we're going to know about that.
I don't know if we can squeeze another year out of it.
When is the time? Get notification?
For college school?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know. I mean,
Imminent.
they need to get through the session.
Right.
And that will be the last hour.
Okay.
On that.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing really major.
Okay. Anything up on the policy committee? We do not meet. Okay, all right. We will check back in May, all righty. Budget committee, most of you were in attendance at our first of what will be many budget workshops. We will continue to have those. The summary upshot of that is that between a slightly downward trending A and B, cuts at the state and national level, we as a community for the first time are looking at some fairly serious budget deficits that are going to require us as a community to look not just short-term but long-term strategies for how we as a community are going to address those budget shortfalls. It's going to take all of us looking creatively and seriously at those issues. We're looking at the hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point. Many of those numbers are not settled yet because the legislative session isn't finished yet. We as a board, as well as the administration, with the public, are going to try to remain as absolutely transparent in this process as possible, especially if there's going to be negotiations going on. I hope you all feel, because this certainly adds an element of unease because of the uncertainty of where this all goes. I want you all to feel like that at any time you can call up Pamela or Rex and get a sense of where we are and what do we know at this point. I hope you don't take this as just some platitude, but really we all are in this together. And so we are looking for ideas and how we make this work. So that's kind of where we are, and it is changing, quite frankly, daily. So look for those notices for the next budget workshop. I'm assuming at this point we'll probably be having them maybe monthly? Okay.
At least.
Negotiations, we are just beginning the process of probably putting together the scheduling for some of those things, beginning that process of putting some of those things together, but nothing has been put in the calendar yet. Doug, do you have any other announcements or anything?
The only one I was going to mention, we will be running a candidates forum.
Yes, thank you.
Because we now have for the first time in quite a few years, we have a contested election for our school board members. So the PEA will be sponsoring a candidates forum, which will be inviting candidates to one of our facilities in school here, inviting the community. That will be to be announced. We've got to figure out a day after spring break.
And for the sake of transparency, all of those who are up for election, raise their hand. Okay, and thank you, Doug. I appreciate you pulling that together. And we have the transportation committee meeting, which meets twice a year. Meet like last month or the month before, so we're good, right?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Till July.
Okay, moving right along.
Yes.
Superintendent Evaluation Committee, you guys, did you meet? Okay, I'm gonna start cracking the whip on you guys, because I want to be able to like cross that off.
There was a great seminar down in Denver about it, and then we're waiting for some stuff from Attorney Diaz, so.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right.
Time, we're good.
Okay, you're good. All right, number 10, budget report. All right, thank you, Pamela. See, I'm moving along.
I won't add to what I am submitting because there are many items that we're talking about with the Senate Bill 307 and the intercap and the budgets. So I just wanted to ask if any of you had any questions about where we're sitting right now or any of the claims. Deb did give me a more in-depth detail on the BMO line item. If you want, I was going to run copies, but I don't know if you want to look at that. Nothing really out of the ordinary right now. Just kind of waiting to see daily what happens with the budget. Okay, go forward.
Yes, Steve. You have that expectant look. Yes, Trustee Dupuy.
Well, just with my experience at the college, they are really harping on purchase orders as it relates to credit card purchases. So I'm just wondering if the policy about people in the district that have credit cards and how they purchase, is there a certain amount? Is there a threshold, or is there?
Yeah, we have the regulator, Deb, on hand, but as per policy, they do have to sign off that they have a card. They check them out. There are, like if they're going to Walmart, say, they do have a process to do a requisition. That requisition has to be approved by their building supervisor. And then they come to check out their Walmart card and bring back the information. On the credit cards, we have travel cards. Say we had our band inquirer that went, she will put on an allotted amount and watches that like a hawk, and then they check it back in. All those things, yeah, we're very much aware. The purchasing deadline is coming up. We've set it for usually April 15th. And so all the buildings right now are submitting in their requisitions and stuff for that online. And then all these things here mostly are then funneled through Deb at the district office and her main cards. So.
Well, just with the recent Missoula city and then the other cities that KECI or whatever was delving into on these credit card purchases.
Very much so.
Well, yeah, we want to.
No $200 pair of sandals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And in any given month, she does have a stack of receipts and email confirmation stuff that goes with that. And they do pull those things through the audit. They'll randomly pull that. And we have to have everything there, hence is why Deb goes out and hounds them for it and gets those receipts, so, yeah.
No prior approval for certain things, or?
No, not usually, no. If there's a travel card, there's a set amount, and she can go in right on the computer and set that. But most of the time, we don't have anything that's
like
bought
a purchase
ahead of time.
order system, like, so you submit, I'm gonna go do this, and it gets approved by somebody.
Right. Yeah, it has to be approved by their supervisor.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that process is vetted through our accountants, right? So that, it's not that, we haven't made that.
It's all passed.
It's what, yeah,
Audits.
so every time the auditors come in, they look at it, and they've made suggestions in the last year or two of how they can clean that system up a little bit further. And I will say in my 5 years, people that have been here longer probably have noticed that it's a lot tighter than it has been in years past, I would think. The receipts.
I'm seeing heads nod. Yeah, I'm not.
I know.
As trustees, I'm like, good, that's good.
Well, and they want a physical approval. They want that signature. They don't want a stamp. They don't want it to be anybody but that person.
Cool. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you.
Any other questions from panel before we move on to the consent agenda? Thank you, Pamela. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items from the consent agenda that need to be removed for consideration individually? Seeing no such requests, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The consent agenda passes. Okay, moving on to new business. Number 12, recommendation to approve the hire of the Folsom High School assistant principal, Mr. Elliott.
Madam Chair, as you see in the board memo, the high school administration and superintendent have made a recommendation to hire Mr. Jay Sampson as the high school assistant principal, and we would request that you would consider that recommendation and approve it.
Fantastic. Do we have any questions from the board? Do we have any comments from the public? At this point, I would entertain a recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
I can say a recommendation for or against, is it for or against? To approve?
Unless you want to change that.
Okay, before we have a recommendation and a second to approve. What's to approve? Got it, go Zags, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Siri has an issue.
Siri has an issue. All those in favor of approving the recommendation to hire Mr. Jay Sampson as the Polson High School Assistant Principal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is passed unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, moving right along, number 13, recommendation to approve the middle school out-of-state travel. Mr. Yarborough.
Yep, annual Silverwood trip. Just getting on the agenda for the 8th graders. It's going to be a great time, June 8th. We've got a lot of interested parent chaperones this year, which will be exciting. Since we don't have to go through the full background check, since they're not going to be with students unattended, we have a little more flexibility than we have in the past, and looking forward to that. So June 8th, it's going to be a fun time.
Fantastic.
Hopefully good weather.
True. The kids are impervious.
Hopefully a good
They
bus.
really are. Yeah, I'm more concerned about the bus than the weather.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Legitimate.
Okay, a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Pick it, Pam.
Do we have any public comment? All those in favor of approving the recommendation for the out-of-state travel for the 8th grade Silverwood trip, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The Silverwood trip is approved. Number 14, recommendation to approve the high school out-of-state travel. Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize for the short turnaround, because they will be, if approved, leaving in 2 days. So, this was actually an agenda item way back in, I believe, October, and I pulled it at the last minute because we weren't quite sure. And then I, honestly, with the change of the board meeting, I forgot to put it on, so, for March. Because I think I was at the basketball tournament when that happened, so. Anyways, we are asking for approval to take 7 students and 2 of our faculty to Seattle, Washington for the National High School Journalism Conference that begins on Thursday, runs through Saturday. And as I put in my letter, they have fundraised to pay for the trip, and I am going to fund the 2 teachers going because there are some professional development opportunities for them while they're there. And those are Michael Humphrey and Katrina Benners, both English teachers.
Okay. Little professional development opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve that particular opportunity.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion and second. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, do we have any further discussion from the board?
Can I
Yes.
request a report back from this trip then?
I think that would be
Next
fantastic.
available.
I think that would be wonderful. Would you like to pass that on to the participants? Wonderful. So we have a motion and second to approve the out-of-state travel contingent upon a report back from the experience. All those in favor of approving this trip signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is approved. Thank you, Scott. Recommendation to approve the change to Polson High School graduation requirements. Mr. Wilson.
So tonight I'm going to introduce, I brought both our counselors also. So if you don't know, we have Betsy Wade and Emily Johnson. And I have, I think, enough copies for everybody to be passed around. So after a lot of thought into this, I finally decided, I talked to actually Rex for a couple of years as being an assistant about my concerns with the opportunities that kids are not taking advantage of, or that maybe we are not providing guidance in terms of more opportunities for them in order to get them to where I believe they need to be for graduation. As I stated in the letter that I was very brief in that, and so that's why I asked Betsy to help me with what we're looking at for the plan. But I think we do a very good job with a lot of college readiness part of our graduation requirements. However, I think that we could do a better job of career readiness. And so a lot of these credits have to do with that part of the plan. And so as you can see on the current requirements that we have, which has been 22 for probably as long as Bolson has been in existence, those are currently what we have for that. I am asking for you to approve for us to change our graduation credits to 24. This would be with our first group, which would be our incoming freshmen of next year, would be the first group that would be required for that. And here are the 2 credits that I'm asking for us to change or to add to our requirements. The first one is personal finance, and what we've listed there are the different classes that we now are going to offer. We are going to offer, it's called Growing Wealth. It is basically a personal finance class that will be taught through our business department. Problem-based Math 1 is a semester-long class, Growing Wealth is also a semester-long class. Problem-based Math 1 is a class mostly for juniors and seniors. It's another math credit. But in that there is a heavy emphasis on the finance part of it. And then also through MTBA, currently, until we find out exactly what they're going to do with that program, but there also is the opportunity for them to take it online with that class. My rationale for the personal finance is that for years I've been here and I've been in this board room, I've heard in the public, all those things that you did a great job of teaching my kid how to do calculus, but they don't know how to balance a checkbook, or they don't know what credit cards do to them and all those things. And I agree 100%. I mean, we have done those things, but we don't have those opportunities, which is a very basic, and it doesn't matter if you're going to college or not going to college, you need to know those things. It can be very helpful. And so by adding that as one of our graduation credits, half a credit, which is a semester-long class, and they can take more, obviously. It's not, they can take their Growing Wealth, they could take problem-based math, they could take accounting. I mean, there's other options for them, but those would be the basic ones, because those other classes would have prereqs for them. Second one is another half credit that I want to focus on career exploration. Bill Appleton actually has kind of got me, the one that got me going on this. He's been reaching out to try and get more and more community businesses and employers to have job shadowing opportunities, and I'm going to extend that. We do have a handful right now that are willing to do that, but to do that, I'm going to put some credit into it, and so the counselors and I put together a criteria for independent study, which has a set number of hours that they have to complete during that. They have to have a teacher of record, which is for the high school teachers. They have to keep a daily journal. They have to write a synopsis paper for us at the end, and then they have to report to our board, which would be myself or Mr. Sampson, one of the counselors, and then that teacher of record. So they have a presentation piece to that also, which they can receive a half credit. Any other, career exploration internships, JMG, our Jobs for Montana Graduates, would qualify underneath that, and then listed all kinds of electives, depending on what their interests are, that would be more career exploration rather than just the basic requirement for a fine art or practical art. And then the last one would be one additional credit, and we chose to do that in 2 areas. We currently require we require 2 credits in our history department, which is U.S. history and government econ. So a student can choose, depending on what they think their future is going to hold. They could take 1 more credit or an additional credit in global studies, which is our global issues class, our Western Civ, World Geography, World History, those types of classes, which does require, a lot of our university, or the Montana University system at least, or is it out of state? I always get that confused. Most require a 3rd year of it anyways, if you're going to go on. Or a credit in STEM, and which is something that's, becoming more and more important in terms of what's out there with the science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we've also we didn't list all those opportunities, but we have opportunities galore in that area that I feel that we could do a better job of having students they're not taking advantage necessarily of all those opportunities. And that can range, once again, that doesn't have to do with just kids that are going to college. That's, there's classes that are geared for the kids that are trying to get ready to, computers. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to have to learn some things about the computers and whether you're going to college or not. We're seeing a larger increase of students actually going to tech schools, 2-year schools instead of 4-year schools. I don't know if you read the literature, but the literature is talking about that people now, mostly students and their parents, they want to get the best bang for their buck when it comes to college. And so they don't want to go into debt for $200,000. And if they really, what they can do is in a 2-year situation or a trade or something like that. And there's literature, like I said, all over about that or on that. And then the rationale, once again, we still want to make sure we focus on our college readiness part, which there's a piece of that. But also, like I said, one of my focuses is to try to up our career readiness with those kids, to try to reach more kids than just our college-bound kids. To educate our students and prepare them for lifelong success and encourage them to take more opportunities to explore in what their career interests might be. And then also, I don't know if you're aware of it, but Polson High School does have an early release program, which I am currently taking partly away. I'm in the transition of taking it away. And what's happened is kids nowadays, they look at things and you tell them they're going to take 22 credits, okay, I'm going to take 22 credits and we're done. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't think they're taking, it's a free education we're offering them here, and I don't think that we're taking full advantage of the opportunities in some of our classes, and so I'm trying to increase this so that we can give them a little bit more guidance towards that, and see if, I tell everybody that, I know a long time ago, but the expectation when I went to high school was you went to high school for 7 periods a day. And if I had the opportunity to do 2 periods of early release and be done at 1 o'clock every day, I would have done that also. And so, it's not a bad thing. There's definitely some things that we can do. We have programs available for that part of it too, with some work release and things like that. But I just don't know if we are fully preparing them for everything that they're going to see once they leave.
Scott, if I can interrupt you, just because this kind of blew my mind when you put it in context. You and I were talking about this about a month ago or so, and you told me about the number of our student body who are gone every day by 1 o'clock. Would you share that with us?
So we have, I believe it's 78.
Well, at least that.
Well, it's 103 total, but not everybody's necessarily gone. 78, I believe, are gone at 1, but there's 103 total kids that we don't have for the entire day. So about a fourth of our population is on early release currently, juniors and seniors, just juniors and seniors.
And then they don't necessarily come back to participate in extracurricular activities or be leaders in those other things. And so we're losing that huge segment of that population every day. I mean, when you think about the culture of our high school, that profoundly impacts what that's like every day. It just kind of blew my mind. I had no idea.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's part of, where, like I said, I did a lot of research on this. I talked to a lot of schools in the state, and honestly, one of the, probably the most common answer back to me was, what's taking you guys so long? Because a lot of schools have already done this in the last 3 to 5 years. They changed it because of they're seeing the same type of thing that the kids, want to not necessarily take advantage of all their opportunities.
I guess that was my question to you. Who around here is doing that? I guess of our local schools. I guess I'm for it. I have a kid coming into that grade, and I think it's great. But I think of those kids that, because there's a handful in every grade that I'm involved in right now, that when you hand this to them, and they're barely going to make it as it is at 22 credits. And I guess I'm just wondering. I know that one of our main goals is to increase the graduation rate, and to me this is a little red flag on that, because now you're going to add 2 more credits to them. I guess I'm just wondering your opinion as to what percentage of those kiddos are struggling that aren't gonna make it, and is it gonna take us back down in that graduation rate, or that just doesn't even matter, that's just a moot point?
No, it's a good point. So I actually have, and I don't have the exact numbers in terms of the exact percentages, but I asked them to run numbers in terms of after the first semester of where our kids were in terms of number of credits towards 24 that they would have to be. All the way from our current seniors, all the way down to where our freshmen are. And the one more that I was most concerned with would have been like our freshmen, because if those guys come in. And of a class of 134, 30, I can't remember exactly how many there were only 6 kids in that group that were going to be more at risk than they're already at risk in terms of where they were at this semester. In the senior group, all but 12 kids would have met that 24 this year. And every one of those are, I mean, there's a couple of those kids that we don't know if they will or not, but some of those kids, and I can say it because it's my child, he's one of them. And the reason is because he chose to take a study hall each one of his years and took an early release this year. But he easily could have gotten to, so he, somebody that academically could have easily got into it. So I don't know how many to tell you that until we do it. But there's going to be a push for some of those, definitely. And but I also feel that not having, I mean, when you have those opportunities to set the standards higher, I believe that those kids, we can get them to that point. I don't think we'll see much of a
And
change.
so when are you going to be done with the early release?
So next year's seniors get to have their 2 periods still as an option. And then next year's juniors do not. And then next year, the juniors, when they are seniors, I will allow senior year 1 year of early release, or 1 period of early release.
For
But
just the kids that are there now, or every senior?
From now on, after this year. There will always be, and then they can take, I mean, if you really think about early release, I mean, in terms of what it's doing, kids can take, we have a work release program, they can do that. We have independent study, which is basically an early release, because they're going out to job shadow or to do something with it. So
there's always a legitimate reason.
Yes.
Or an option for a legitimate reason.
Exactly.
There's not gonna be, I'm gonna figure out a way so I can go home and play video games.
So
if they're on a work release or independent study, so somebody besides their parent has to sign up on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good.
So of that, how many did you say of early release? How many of them actually have jobs to go to versus just?
I don't have that information. It's not that high, I can tell you that. I would get less than 15.
But going forward, we may be able to keep track of that.
Well, we will, because
they will be-
next year we're adding the work release part, and there is criteria that they have to follow through me, actually.
Currently, right now though, when they're allowed to leave early, are they allowed to also come back then to participate in sports?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can leave and then come back and do your sport.
Yeah.
And you get into trouble.
No, that's so this will actually, so going forward then, will you still be able to, if you get that 1 semester off, to be able to leave and then
The
come
1
back?
period off, yeah. Yeah, there will still be that part of it, because they've met their daily attendance that we require. But I think we'll see, we just won't, one of my big issues, and I don't know necessarily, like I said, if it's the right or wrong, but I'll give you an example, which was like why I finally pulled the trigger, because I knew we were getting ready to register, and I've been wanting, talking about it, but I asked the teachers to start doing, giving me numbers, projected numbers, especially in our electives, and our Singleton teachers. And my final straw was when one of our teachers asked how many wanted to take a level 3 and 4 of their class. And 21 kids said yes, they were going to sign up for it, unless it was 6th and 7th grade of the day. Because that would be juniors and seniors. Because, they're like, well, I don't need to have it for anything. I've already got my 2 years for graduation. I've got it towards colleges. I don't have to take that, and I can be done. That was my final straw, is when I said, okay, I'm pulling the trigger on this. I'm going to try to see what the board thinks, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Okay, so we're adding this many credits. So budget-wise, we're looking at maybe a budget issue here. we can cover all this
Yep.
without any added expenses?
Yep.
Okay.
So currently, this is, I mean, I don't foresee us getting to a point where we're going to cut so much, but when you really look at what we're doing, there's not one class in here that's new. There might be new that we're teaching, but we're not bringing another teacher to do it. We have just adjusted our current schedule to meet some of those needs. And so the only worry that I have about the big picture is if for some reason we lose the Montana Digital Academy. That takes away all of our online, and that's going to be a huge hit, not just for our school, but for schools across the state of Montana. So it's currently in a budget situation, and they're not completely cutting it from where we think right now, but we can still withstand this if they do. If it goes away completely, then it's going to.
Okay, so if you ran the budget kind of figure.
Yeah, and that's actually, if you look at one of the rationale, you know, one of our rationale is that we have more and more kids each year that are either trying to graduate after their junior year, or parents and them come and request us to go to part-time. And so that is also one of the issues. And, you know, I've already denied, I had a meeting and I denied a parent because it's easy to get to 20 to 21 credits after 3 years. I mean, if you take, you know, 7 periods for 3 years, you can get there. So all your requirements that are left for graduation are English and econ and government. Well, if I try to tell the parent that, you know, every time that I go to a 2 period as a quarter student that we can count, which is about a $4,000 to $4,500 loss. And for one student, you don't think it's much, but if I have 10 kids that ask to do it, you're talking about cutting one of my teachers. And so that is definitely one of my concerns, is that keeping these kids in for trying to keep them full-time status for all 4 years. Or one of my rationales, I should say.
Thanks.
Any other questions, trustees?
Oh, no.
That's how I remember it. At this point, I would entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve going from 22 to 24 minutes for the high school.
Second. We have a motion, second. Do we have any public comment? Do we have any further discussion from the board? All those in favor of approving the recommendation to go from 22 to 24 credits for the graduation class beginning in 2021, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The new graduation requirements are passed. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Okay. That was number 15. Agenda item number 16, recommendation to approve Access Consulting E-Rate Network Upgrade Contract. Mr. Elliott.
All right, I have a rather lengthy memo. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. As part of what I do every year is I try to access funds through the E-Rate program for the school district. And as a high poverty district, we have a pretty high discount rate. And so most of our projects are paid for at about 80%. And so we have a wireless network upgrade that will take place. Actually, it'll start next week with some cabling that we received through prior year commitment. That didn't come to you because the threshold wasn't high enough for the board to have to approve the contract for that. But this one is. And if you noticed, one of the things that I referred to in that memo was that list that Trustee Anderson continues to compile time and time again. And we have lots of building systems on that list that are inoperable or semi-operable. They're proprietary, they're expensive, the schools have needed them for perhaps years, and we haven't been able to do anything with them. We had a study done on those systems approximately I want to say a year and a half ago, to kind of look at our infrastructure, to see what we need to be able to move those systems out of those proprietary platforms into something that will provide us some vendor agnostic systems, so that we're not tied to maybe one vendor in the valley that perhaps doesn't provide good service or is expensive, that type of thing. The other thing it does for us is all of our buildings have different systems. It will allow us to put systems on the same platform. But to do that, our infrastructure is not adequate for it. So we can't just go out there and, let's say, put in an IP phone system, because our phone system is really out of date and has reached its life expectancy and needs to be changed. And so to do that, we don't have the capacity to be able to provide reliable service. So what we did based on that infrastructure study is we put together a project that will be, quote, E-ratable, with what we need to be able to offer IP systems that are secure and reliable. And with that, we put a proposal out through the E-rate system. We had 4 vendors provide us bids. We had a low bid of just under $202,000. We had a high bid of just over $306,000. Out of those costs, my estimate, because I'm in the middle of applying for it now, actually I need the contract to be approved before I can actually apply for it through E-rate. That's just the way the system works. Is E-rate will pay approximately $140,000 of that project. The district will pay $65,000 of that project. And so we leverage a lot of outside money, even though it's a significant expense for the district. It has some definite positives for us in that as funds become available for those other projects, we'll have a platform to put them on. It'll allow us to put those systems on top of that in a scalable way. We can phase those projects just because of the nature of what IP technology allows us to do. It will, in some cases, help us save money on recurring costs, such as phone bill. We have an old PBX type system, and we have like 57 lines that come into the district. When we go to an IP system, we will reduce that number by a significant amount. I don't know exactly how much, but I would suspect that recurring phone bill will be about 1/3 of the cost of what we're paying right now.
Wow.
There are some opportunities for some savings.
Carl, sorry, will that allow us to get other vendors besides CenturyLink?
Absolutely, yep. Yeah, we may still need CenturyLink as the vendor to bring in the analog lines for emergency type stuff. But yeah, it will provide us some opportunities for that. Our security systems will give us opportunities to leverage other vendors. One of the issues we have is our surveillance systems are not adequate. They don't provide the level of clarity. Clarity is a good word, but give us enough resolution to be able to use those.
There's enough
in a-
bandwidth to carry the load for the kind of.
Well, and our system that we have is analog, so, I mean,
Cindy, did you have a question?
Well, my only concern is we're already looking at a budget deficit as we are. Where are we coming up with another $60,000? And yes, we might save on some things, but if you do it on a monthly basis, that would be $5,000.
I was gonna steer the conversation there. Now, we've got some, jump in you guys, and this is coming from that budget training we had, but we've got some very restricted funds. Is it transportation or some others that, under the laws regarding, we can recalculate some things regarding safety and some other things, and we can move some of that under that rule that we can only use and blah, blah, blah to, that wouldn't, it's not coming out of general fund.
Now you're going that way.
Yeah. We're it's some creative financing that allows us to, help me out here.
So there, 2 years ago, there was, I believe it's Senate Bill 115 that allowed for school districts to be flexible. There's a flexibility policies, and that what you're talking about is it allowed school districts to expend money from levied account or from permissive levy accounts, such as bus depreciation and adult ed, which isn't part of the general fund. And so the general fund had always taken the blow for these structures, and the reason why we haven't had that. So we've been thinking out loud, creatively, having these brainstorm think tanks between the three of us, like how can we fund that? And the most logical way is run this through a safety platform. And I will say this, that I put a lot of pressure on Carl saying I want IP new phones, we want new security systems, I need an intercom system at the high school that touches every room, including the portables, which we don't have right now, lockdown systems. But Carl keeps coming back and saying we don't have the backbone, we don't have the infrastructure to have that work. And so how can we do it? And so he's come up, just by brainstorming ideas, that this is a perfect storm for us to be able to fund it through flexibility accounts, which the rest of the state has asked us to do anyway in our budget meetings down at Silk and Montana School Board Association says you need to start thinking creative, use your flexibility accounts. And so that's a great question. I would say the same thing. How do we buy a new bus when our general fund is low?
And the important part is that flexibility, I'm sorry to jump on you, we can't flexibly fund personnel with that. It's really narrow, there are only a couple of categories and safety is one of those. And we can fund this special kind of technology under that category, which is why I jumped in on that.
And it would be my hope, the district has been contributing about $30,000 a year for tech infrastructure, that we wouldn't stop doing that. I mean, that would be.
Right, there's we've got a combination, we can.
And we have the building reserve fund, which we can allocate portions to that. I mean, there are some opportunities for cost sharing amongst multiple funds to fund this. So yes, it does look like a rather large expenditure. This year I have $30,000. My plan is to spend half of that and carry over half of that for next year and to help pay for this. This project won't happen probably until June. I'm guessing it will probably be somewhere around June 2018. Just with the nature of how E-rate works, I'm submitting the application right now. If the previous few years proves to be how things will run, approval won't happen until late October, early November. And I'm too risk averse to start a project before approval. Lots of districts do, thinking the district will just carry that. I can't do that.
And we appreciate that.
And so we won't, and it's written into the contract. If you read the contract, there's lots of contingencies written into that if we're not funded or we're not fully funded, we're going to revisit the contract. We won't commence work on the contract until a funding decision letter comes from the E-rate program. So we are being really conservative with that. But we chose the lowest responsible bid, which happened to be the low bid. We brought them in, we interviewed them. And so we've done our due diligence. They have done considerable work with Missoula County and doing that same kind of work with them that they've completed. And now they're working with Missoula County to help them build their own fiber wire network. So they're a reputable company. And we're just asking that you approve the contract so that we can move forward with the E-rate application. If you have any other questions, let me know. If I can't answer it tonight, I will research it and get the answer to you.
Any further questions, trustees? At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the Access Consultant E-rate network upgrade contract.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comment from the public? Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The contract is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, for those of you helping us carry water on the whole budget issue, this is not money that could help us offset personnel issues. So just make sure that we all understand that.
And the feds are going to pay for probably 2/3 of the project.
Right. So creative financing, taking advantage of. Okay. Number 17, recommendation to approve the resolution for Senate Bill 307. Superintendent Wells.
307, we brought that up in as a discussion item last month. This one is time sensitive. April 15th, we need to approve a resolution for us to be able to, not that we're assigning permissive levy at this time, but it gives us authority to go and ask for mills into the general, or into the building reserve funds. And so when we spoke last month, I think the understanding for me was, or our mission was to find out what's going to cost our taxpayers. So if you look into the packet here, it does give the worksheet that Pamela has provided that we have the homes assessed, $100,000 for both the elementary and the high school budget is roughly $15 a month, or a year, excuse me. So it's $15 a year on a $200,000 home. If assessed, the about $190,000 will be about $30 a year. That's the breakdown per home on $100,000 and a $200,000 house. Again, this isn't that we are going after that right at this time, because there are some variables that we need to consider. One, if we get the Quality Schools grant, that eliminates the elementary district from applying for the 307. We still can go after that for the high school. I think important also to note, if we do pass this resolution, that we can use this authority to non-permissive levies. The following year, the state will match the money in the building reserve fund. And so that they want to make sure that we have some, as they call it right now with Quality Schools grant, they want to see that we are investing in our own future, and then the following year that they will match that. That matches the formula based on the poverty rate out of Folsom school districts. And so there will be a formula of how much. It's anywhere from 40 to 75% or so on what they would match. So this, trustees, is simply the ability to pass a resolution that we can explore what that will look like if we choose to raise those mills next year. And to make sure that we're clear with our public to let them know how much we will raise those mill levies.
Before I ask for any motions, trustees, do you have any questions? We've had the opportunity to discuss this a couple of times, but this is complicated and it does potentially, at least opens the door for us to impact our taxpayers. And I want to make sure that we all have the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions necessary.
I think you need to keep all options on the table at this point.
And that deadline is April 15th to pass these resolutions. Okay, given that, and we do, if we do pass this, we need to pass two separate resolutions, one for the elementary district and one for the high school district. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve a resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies for the elementary school district.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment regarding this motion? Do we have any further discussion from the board? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies for the elementary school district signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The resolution is passed. Now we need to consider the same for the high school. Assuming we have the same considerations. Is that a question? No. Okay. So assuming we have the same feelings about this, at this point I would consider a motion to approve the resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies for the high school district.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments regarding this resolution? I see none. Do we have any further discussion by the board members? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies for the high school district signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The resolution of intent for the high school district is passed. Pamela, was there anything else regarding the?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, board members. Thank you. All right. And moving on, number 18, recommendation to authorize the superintendent to explore the intercap loan options. Superintendent Walls.
Didn't we already do that, though?
Last year.
Superintendent Wells, why don't you explain where we are now, just so everybody knows.
Thinking about your question.
I'll let you do.
We had new business, on discussion item last month. The discussion item was the potential intercap loan. We threw out some ideas, but we weren't sure where we were. I feel like we're in the same area, but I want to make sure that we're okay with this board, that we start to explore pretty seriously the ability to pull an intercap loan. And working with Paradigm and the architects, Dan and myself, Carl and Pamela, there are some unknowns right now with the Folsom Middle School road. And it's so early in the process, we're not sure. Alan attested. What I want to explore is that if we can get the roof completed in one cycle, or one session, not bring people in, moving them up, and then tearing down, coming out, and then do it in 3 different phases, where you bring people in and move them out, but that's an extra expenditure. And so what we're asking Paradigm to come up with is to quote us 4 different packages: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, 3 years of work, or none of just get it all done at one time. If we could save money by pulling an intercap loan at a 2.5% on $650,000, that's roughly $45,000 it would cost us to get a loan to do it all at one time. What I want to know is if we have the authority to go out and start looking at that with intercap. The second part of that is it less expensive, because it will cost us $45,000 to do it all at one time, or is it less expensive to bring someone, a construction company in 3 different phases in 3 years? And so that's where we don't have to get the loan. We have the building reserve funds that we can pay for phase 1, phase 2, phase 2 without going out and getting that 2.5%.
Rex, pardon me for a second, and I'll come back to you, Cindy. When I read through the agenda, I missed a word here, which has me curious now. It says explore. I thought what we were doing tonight was giving you the authorization to move forward if that answer of it is less expensive to pull the trigger and do it all at once, even if we have to pay a little bit in interest to do it, to give you the authorization to move forward with that, because we are coming up on the summer construction season. But I'm curious about why are we giving you further authorization to explore
I
it?
believe we did the first time, but that We don't have to. I mean, what I was going to do is ask.
What are
for
you
permission
asking me to do tonight,
in
or
May.
us to do tonight?
Give us the authority to explore that, I guess is what I'm looking for. That was what was on the agenda. Is that what you wanted?
I'm just confused because I thought we've already done that. So I guess at this point in time, in my opinion, we know what the intercap loan is gonna cost us. And we already know that we can get it because we've done that previously. So I guess my question is, aren't we into the position now of finding out what the savings would be?
We're just
on
waiting to
the
see
roof?
if which is more expensive.
Yeah, doing
And so
it.
we're waiting for that recommendation from you to pull that trigger.
Okay, so strike it.
Okay, thank you. All right, move on. Okay, sorry I missed that on agenda review. I just read something different. Okay.
It's always good to be thorough.
Thank you very much. Number 19, recommendation to approve the leave of absence request. Mr. Elliott.
Okay, we have 2 employees that are either dealing with medical issues or are dealing with family members who are dealing with medical issues that are out of leave, not eligible for FMLA, and our policy is that if they're going to be gone for longer than 15 days to seek approval of a leave of absence. And the thing in our policy that's kind of unusual is that it says, with board approval, the superintendent may approve or arrange, well, what's the exact language? The superintendent has the flexibility to grant a leave of absence. And so it's like, okay, with a board approval, the superintendent can grant this leave of absence. So we're asking for you to grant these individuals a leave of absence. Their supervisors are supportive of that. They're good employees. The one employee has been an employee with the district for, I believe, 14 years. The other one has been an employee since last fall. Their letters are in your green folder. If you want to take a quick look at those. Because of confidentiality, we're not really free to talk about who they are and what their issues are. But I would ask that you approve their request for a leave of absence through the rest of the school year. It does not mean that they will be gone for the rest of the school year, but just in case, I would like to get that approved through June 9th. And these are classified hourly employees.
I'll move that we grant a leave of absence.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion by the board? Do we have any comment from the public? All those in favor of granting the request for the leaves of absence signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The requests for leave are approved.
Thank you. I'm sure they will appreciate it very much.
Number 20, recommendation to approve personnel report. Mr. Elliott.
If you look at both of our reports, they don't look, the one looks long, the elementary looks like it's a long report, but it's not really anything out of the ordinary. We're just including middle school coaches for next year. Although it looks, we did miss wrestling, so that'll have to come before you next month or in June, whenever Mr. D gets that list together. There is one individual that I would like to make special note of. Mrs. Larson is retiring at the end of the school year, and she has long time service with Polson School District, and so I just want to acknowledge that service. Unless you have any questions, I would ask that you approve the reports as written.
I move that we approve the high school personnel report.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel report for the high school district. Do we have any discussion?
I'd just like to acknowledge Mr. Wilson for his years of service as a high school football coach.
Thanks. Do you have any comments from the public? All right, seeing no further comments, all those in favor of approving the high school personnel report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The high school personnel report is passed. I would entertain at this point a motion to approve the elementary school district report. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Public comment? All those in favor of approving the personnel report for the elementary school district as submitted signify by saying aye. All those opposed? The personnel report for the elementary school district is passed. And Pamela, if you could please make a note both of Mr. Wilson's service as football coach as well as Mrs. Larson's in the minutes. I think that would be nice. Thank you. Moving on, number 21. I know it's close, people. We're really working here. Recommendation to approve out-of-district reports. Mr. Wells.
Again, this is to approve the report, which is not to approve the 3 that are in this report.
Oh, then we don't have to approve it. Isn't that correct? We only approve, we don't approve non-recommendations.
I would ask that you approve the report.
Okay.
Because in the past, we've had some issues with the board we have some documentation in your
I see.
in your folders.
I will
We've had some
rely-
issues with that in the past.
I will
for
rely on your recommendation. Given Mr. Elliott's recommendation as that of Mr. Welts, I would entertain a motion to accept the report as recommended.
And the recommendation is to not
deny
right.
3.
the 3 that are not recommended. Would you make sure that I don't have a double negative in that? Thank you. Or triple, I'm not sure how many dots I have.
I move to recommend to approve out-of-district report, Superintendent Wells, item number 21.
You say that again?
Don't say that.
That's what it says here.
That's correct. Oh, okay.
You want us to approve your recommendation for item number 21, correct?
Which is to not recommend,
Which is this?
which is to not recommend. Right.
You're approving this report.
This report, okay.
This report denies these students
I
enrollment.
move to recommend to approve out-of-district report.
Okay,
Superintendent
got
Wells, item number 21.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do you have any further discussion?
I ask the same question every time. So what happens to these kids now?
They have a district. They're in their district. They will go back to their district.
Okay.
Not go back, stay in, they have not come here yet.
Yeah,
They're
these are
not
not.
here and going back.
They'll-
They'll remain in their current district.
If they're in, yeah, well.
Struggling with the same thing.
I know, I just struggle with,
Can I ask for clarification who seconded? Thank you.
Do we have any further comments from the public? Questions from the board? All those in favor of approving the out-of-district students report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The report is approved. Thank you for your patience. Seeing no further business before this board, we are adjourned.
You gotta get the stuff recorded, man.
I got it recorded.
Because we have to have it on the tape. But I get it.
No, my back is killing me. I kept shifting like, okay.
That one word I didn't
So the board will be nice and transparent.
Thanks.
Tomorrow, they needed to be
Yeah.
I like Mary's look.
When we spoke,
I know you're
Carl and I said,
No, I-
we want to do this.
no.
Blocks out. Go for a fly.
No, 'cause-
Give yourself a chance. The stars are one part of that. How many times they missed 4 shots in a row? I mean, if there's a chance.
The bad storm is for Oregon.
I'm pretty sure you're on the list.
Part of that is,
Good luck tonight.
Sincerely apologize for missing that. I read right over that, I don't know how many times, but it changes the meaning of it.
Carl and I were, we talked about, we were going to
Had
do
conversations with
we want to go for a loan.
I'm not like, oh, got all the way to that.
Part of having the gender review.
Everybody's looking at everything around.
I swear, it's like one of those things you
What
expect
happens
to
is
say
you
something,
this
and that's what you
for the
read, but
personnel
yeah, it
report.
changes the meaning of it,
And
especially with
unless they
something
work out how
financial.
everything individually.
And
We approved all of these
if
pieces.
we needed to be a special meeting, we could always do another one of those phone things.
We already had talked about it, but we're going to do it again.
So, I guess maybe we'll just call
You guys like Rach's position as soon as possible, or do you want to? I'd like to.
Yeah.
Anytime tomorrow? Oh, no, I don't.
We're all done by sleep, we're done really long in the morning to write.
I got over there now. I think we're going to work on
And then, at some point, we want to.
Yeah, we get together tomorrow night.
Fill out.
Or are we just gonna?
You know, Steve's already, I got him working on the language for it. But I don't want to just say, hey, Michael, want to figure out the schedule for you. He's got to have some pretty, some
For
qualifications.
14 years that I've been sitting. I don't know why, I'm gonna go.
sounds good.
It's Jeremy, what we're drinking, you can.
Thank. I'm gonna hook up to the phone.
So I was like, well, as soon as we know what date it is, where you at?
I'm coming just to put you up.